So you've installed the free Guitar Rig 7 player. Now what? What do you do with all this stuff? Hello home music creators. You can get Guitar Rig 7 completely free. This is a great amp sim, but it can be quite intimidating to use, especially if you've never used an amp sim before. This is a quick start guide to using it. I'm not going to cover everything that's in Guitar Rig 7. If I did, we'd be here for hours. We'll get it installed, set up, your guitar playing through it, and we'll touch on the presets that are provided with Guitar Rig and creating your own sounds. Now, to download Guitar Rig, it is a little bit convoluted. You can't just install Guitar Rig 7 Player on its own. You have to install it as part of the suite of applications that Native Instruments provide. And what you'll actually end up with is this Native Access app, which allows you access to all of Native Instruments applications. You can see in here, I've got Guitar Rig 7 Player installed. So what you have to do, you click this Get It Free with Complete Start button, click the free download. Then if you don't have an account, you'll have to create one. I do, and I'm logged in, so I can just click that. And then I can add Complete Start, which is what Guitar Rig is part of. So that means that Complete Start, which contains Guitar Rig, is now inside the Native Access app. If you don't have that, you can download and install it by using one of these buttons here. Just download and install it, open it up, and then you should see that you have the option to install Guitar Rig Player. There'll be a little install button there instead of open. It's open for me because I have it installed. Now, Guitar Rig can be run in two modes. It can be run in standalone mode, which means you just double click on its icon and you run it exactly the same as you would run any other application on your machine. You can also run it in plug-in mode, which means it runs inside of a DAW, such as Reaper, Cubase, Logic. And this allows you to use it to provide the sound for a guitar track you're recording in your DAW. This video isn't about recording, so I'll just concentrate on the standalone mode. Just briefly mention connecting physically your guitar to Guitar Rig. So you need an audio interface. Your interface will be connected to your computer via USB or Thunderbolt. You'll plug your guitar into one of your audio interface's jack inputs, just using a standard jack cable. Just before we fire up Guitar Rig, you should make sure on your audio interface that your guitar is not clipping the input. So if it is, just make sure you turn it down a bit until it's no longer clipping. So here's the UI for Guitar Rig. We've got to do a little bit of setup before we can get started. Click this little three dots option here and go to File and Preferences. And the tab we're interested most in here is the Audio tab. You want to do, if you're on a PC, you need to make sure you have selected the ASIO driver. This is a driver specially designed for high-end audio applications. And the device, it should be reasonably obvious which one of these you're using. I've got a Focusrite interface. It's connected to my computer via USB. And it's definitely wants to use that ASIO driver, so your options won't look exactly the same as mine unless you've got the same audio interface as me. But hopefully it should be reasonably easy to work out which one you should pick. This ASIO config is quite important. This sets the sample rate and buffer size. These are essentially a compromise between sound quality and latency. Try leaving it at whatever the default settings are for you to start with. If you're getting audio glitches, then try increasing the buffer size. If you're getting latency, which means there's a large delay between when you play a note and when you hear it coming out of the amp sim, then try reducing the buffer size. Inputs and outputs are very important. So the outputs are simply whichever outputs on your audio interface you've got your speakers or headphones connected to. I've just got 1 and 2 on mine. And then the inputs, whichever input on your audio interface you're connected to, this is what you should select here. So my guitar is connected to input 2 on my interface, so that's what I've selected. You can see here it says Guitar Rig 7 in right, and that needs to correspond to whichever button I've got selected here. So you can see I've got the R for right selected there. So here's Guitar Rig. Let's talk about the quickest way to get a sound out of it. Probably the best way of doing that is to use the presets. So if you click the presets on this browser pane here, I suggest you probably click guitar under input sources. And now you'll see all the guitar presets that are supplied with Guitar-Rig. Let's pick one. What's this? Solo Seeker. Let's try that. There we go. You can see the equipment that we got configured here has changed. Nice. As well as double clicking on the presets on the browser pane to load it into the rack, you can also use these up and down buttons here to switch between the presets. Let's talk briefly about the different areas on here. So we've got the browser pane on the left here, which allows you to select presets and individual components. We've got the rack in the middle here, which shows you exactly what equipment you currently have active. Got the input-output section up the top here. If I play something, you can see those meters going up. Got the preset options area here. We've already seen the up and down buttons, but you've got other sort of little utility things, like you've got a tuner which you can turn on and off. We've got a metronome. And this bottom area here is for macros. If you've got a lot of equipment in your rack, you can assign a control from one of those components to one of these macro knobs. We've also got this signal flow area here. This is essentially a cut down version of what's shown in the rack pane. And it's also very useful if you've got loads and loads of components like we have in this patch. You can jump to that component by just clicking on the component on the signal flow pane, and it will jump to it in the rack. One thing we haven't covered yet is creating our own sounds, our own presets. Let's clear this. So if you press the little trash icon there, that will clear what you've currently got in your rack. We then, in the browser, select components, and you can see you can select between the different types. Let's start with amplifiers. Let's pick an amplifier, so you can either drag it across or double click it to get the component into the rack. Okay, nice. We've got the amp set up along with its corresponding speaker cab. Let's pick a reverb unit to add a bit of ambience. There we go. That's nice. To see the difference between that on and off, you can always use this little power button there. So this is no reverb. And we put the reverb back in. Yep, you can definitely hear the difference there. And what else? Let's pick something different. Maybe, what if we add, say, a modulation pedal? So this is a combined flanger and chorus unit. Let's have a listen to what it sounds like with a bit of chorus. Very 80s, I like it. And that's pretty much it. To remove units, you can just drag them out of there. So you can see it goes red as you're doing that, and that unit will be removed from your rack. If you want to save your new preset, click this little Save As button and give it a new name. Click OK, and there you go. What you can also do is you can add tags to that saved preset. So if you select the one we just saved in the browser pane here, which was test 1, if you select this little I information button, you can select and configure all these different tags for your sound. So this is a guitar sound, give it the crunch tag, the high gain tag, different characters, distorted, clean, etc., which amplifier you've got, and metadata that you can add down at the bottom there. I hope now you've got a good idea of how to basically use Guitar-Rig 7 Player. Now I've got you started, I highly encourage you to experiment with it. It's not that difficult to use, and most things are quite intuitive once you've been using it for a while. This is Paul from Home Music Creator signing off. See you in the next video. Cheers.